Welcome to On Point Live with Vince Ferragamo and Jackie Slater. Look at me, I'm Michael Horn. I'm up here on the big stage with the big boys here. It's really great to have this show coming to CRN. Vince Ferragamo, Jackie Slater. It's an honor, a pleasure to work with you, and I want to find out a little bit about you guys. You've been doing this show for some time, haven't you?
Well, we've always enjoyed doing working together, both Jackie and I, not only being teammates, but being close friends over the years. And, you know, doing On Point Live has been fun because we can analyze and look into what's happening in the NFL and other sports and give our opinion of what we think is what we see. And I think it's been a lot of fun to talk to the
Jackie, is that true, or are you guys not even friends at all?
True. It's true. I had to protect this guy, and I did a pretty good job of it, except for once in Buffalo when I got him killed.
What happened?
I got beat like I stole a governor's mule, and he took the brunt of it right in the middle of his back and everything. And I watched it. All I could do is pull him up and get the blood off my hand that he spit on.
They had to wake me up with some smelling salt.
Thanks for being with us. We'll have more for you next week. So you guys played how many years together?
Well, let's see. In the Rams, 7 years.
Yeah,
Jackie?
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. Yeah. And you guys went to the Super Bowl together, correct?
Yes, right.
Yeah,
That's right. We went to the
Pittsburgh.
Super Bowl primarily because of this guy right here. You know, he was deadly accurate. We got on the field and just made plays, and we got all excited about him. And next thing you know, we were in the big show.
Jackie, you played what, 20 seasons, 20 years?
20 seasons.
How about you, Vince?
I played 10 years total. 1 in Canada and 9 in the NFL.
What was that like in Canada when you went up there?
That wasn't too much fun because they didn't have a great offensive line to play behind anymore. You know, when you go different places, you realize how great it was when you had it behind a great offensive line. And so, you know, but you know what it does? It opens up your mind. It opens up the game so you can really get a good glimpse of different ways they play the game of football, and it helps you overall.
And you also played with that upstart guy, Fred Dreyer, right? Was he on the team?
Oh, Freddie.
Hunter. He was something else.
Oh, he was something.
Would you ever
a piece of work, as we say. He was a piece of work.
Did he put you in the TV show Hunter? I could see you guys as superstars as well, too, kind of like.
I wanted a guest star on that, but he and I never invited us. I don't know why.
I think he'll do it now.
Yeah.
Just on the show. We're going to talk about a lot of things in sports. We got baseball to wrap up. The football season's clicking along here right now. We got some good teams, some bad teams. You guys have your comments that we can figure out?
Midway in the season, there's a lot to talk about, right, Jackie?
There's a lot to talk about. Some disappointments, some teams that, catching us off guard. We didn't expect them to be as good as they are. It's just a lot of different things happen.
We'll be right back with more of On Point Live with Vince Ferragamo and Jackie Slater. Back with On Point Live, Vince Ferragamo and Jackie Slater. Known as Big Bad Jackie. How'd you get that moniker?
I don't know. It just kind of came along with the work I was doing at that time.
Yeah.
You know, if you were big and you were constantly trying to beat people up, I guess you just get tagged with the nickname like that.
Maybe it was that song you guys were dancing well with.
Oh, yeah. The Ramit video.
The Ramit video.
Maybe that came from there. we had a lot of fun making that video. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it was
Big
good.
Bad Vince with the wine company. That's you got a winery now, don't you,
Yeah,
Vince?
Vince Ferragamo Vineyards. Don't forget, Michael, we do a Super Tuscan. Obviously, got to be Italian wine. And Jackie likes it, too. We all like it. It's
Yeah.
a great family favorite.
Jackie, you working on anything, or are you kind of with those grandkids of yours?
Grandkids and enjoying them via Zoom. You know, we can communicate with they're all the way back in Boston, so it's not
Yeah,
like I'm going to
and
Boston every week.
Let's talk about that, because a shout out to your son for the great career he had. He just retired here, didn't he, last season?
Yes, he just
Tell
retired.
everybody about that.
He just retired. He played 16 years. He was a wide receiver. Went to Servite High School here. He went to UCLA. He was a wide receiver for 16 years in the NFL, and he only caught one pass, but he went to 10 Pro Bowls.
Wow.
he went to 10 Pro Bowls because he was a kick coverer. He covered kicks. He was a special teams guy, probably the most decorated special teams guy in the history of the game.
And Bill Belichick loved him.
Bill
He said some
Belichick,
great things about him.
He really did. He drafted him and brought him there and saw him through, put him in a lot of different situations to be successful. He failed in a lot of situations and put him in the situation to cover kicks, and he just took off. He just did it with great intensity and technique, and it was just fun to watch.
And Vince, you had a touch football. Tell me about this flag football thing you guys started.
Well, we started the Ferragamo Flag Football League because both Jackie and I have never played tackle football as a kid growing up, so we always played flag. And so I thought it was a great learning experience for me, and I think it's a great learning experience for young kids because it teaches you to be athletic. It teaches you the mental aspects of the game and, formational stuff, some route development for throwing and catching. So Jackie's the commissioner of our league, and we've had a very successful year this year and had a bunch of kids, got a lot of benefits from that league, and they had a lot of fun, didn't they, Jackie?
They had a lot of fun. It was a community effort down in Orange County there. A lot of other leagues have been there longer than Vince and I, but our league was a unique group of guys. It had a couple of young ladies in that on those teams as well, but it was a unique group of people because those people came there and they had expectations for their kids. They wanted the kids to get something out of it, and for the guys that were throwing and running routes, and Vince was just pouring into those kids like you wouldn't believe, and they were eating it up. And I'm thinking, this is the kind of stuff that makes older football players special because they've been exposed to guys like Vince.
Now, do you guys have a website where people can find out more about it?
Yeah, the FerragamoFFL.com.
FerragamoFFL.com.
Yeah, and just look at that website, and you can see a lot of pictures and some of the great things that we did this year, and it's got a description of all of our directors, Jackie and myself included, and it's a lot of our coaches that we've got, our rules and everything. So everything's there for parents to look at. But as you mentioned, Michael, it's all about your kids.
It is.
The development and watching your kids grow up. And like Jackie and I were both close because our kids grew up together.
You named your wines after your kids, right?
All
and
of
your
them,
wife.
yeah. Well, all the girls in my life.
So
Yeah,
it's the wine, yeah.
The number
Wait,
one wine.
Wait, hold on a second. Stop right there. All the girls in your life?
Well, yeah.
I don't think you want to go down that road.
Let me go
for
through
a second
those
there.
girls
Let's
real
just stay
quick.
with family.
Let's start with my mother and my
I
grandmother.
want to get in
now.
trouble with Jody.
Anna Iacuzio was my grandmother's maiden name,
Anna
and Stella was my mom's name. Stella Paziali, obviously all Italian. So that's our Chardonnay, and then Caressa J is Caravanessa and Jenna. Obviously, that's our signature
That's
wine.
one of my favorites,
That's our
by
super
the way. I
Tuscan
like that,
wine,
too.
and it's done really well. And Michael, you know that wine. You've tasted it. Some of our functions.
Gold medal
and-
winner. I was at
It
LA,
has been.
LA Wine.
And we're real proud of that
National
wine, so it's
Competition.
fun. But
How you liking the show so far? We've hit all the topics about sports. That's what this show is all about. Let's talk something you guys know a lot about. The World Series, baseball. My Dodgers
goodness.
here. A little
Yeah.
darker blue possibly, but I'm
Yes.
telling you, I'm bleed Dodger blue like Tommy Lasorda. I love Dave Roberts. The Rams also in blue. You guys played for the Rams. So what do you think? This was an interesting series, man. A nail biter going up to it and then into it. Even though it got out of hand a little bit for the Dodgers, it was looking like the Yankees were coming back.
we have our colors on, don't we, Jackie? Our
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah.
We don't have our gold on, but the Dodgers have been spectacular. Over the years, but they've been a disappointment in years past, in the last few years, because they didn't advance to the World
They didn't
Series
live
game.
up to expectations.
But this year was different.
But it was tough in that first round, like it always seems to be, where they got knocked out for a couple of years.
They played the Padres. The Padres were probably one of the best teams, the hottest teams, and everybody didn't look forward to playing them
Absolutely,
in the playoffs.
absolutely.
And they did such a great job. But talk about players. It's all about the players and the managerial side of it. And, I was impressed because I saw their numbers just run through the roof, and especially Freddie Freeman, Jack.
Freddie Freeman,
He's a local
unbelievable.
kid, lives by us where
That's
we grew
right.
up, and for him to hit those home runs in those 4 games was a spectacular
You know,
achievement.
when I think about it, I think of the key thought process in my mind that determined the outcome of this game had to have been the Yankees manager, Mr. Boone, saying to himself, we might decide not to pitch to Mookie Betts, but we're going to pitch to this guy with the bad ankle. that had to have been
I
a
agree.
prevailing thought in his mind because he did it, and Freddie made him pay every
Now,
time.
don't you think, as you guys are professional athletes, you played, don't you think Freddie knew that he might be the guy that they'll kick off? And he's sitting there with a bad ankle,
Well,
for
I'm
God's
thinking
sake.
he's hoping. I'm thinking he's hoping.
You think so? Is that what it is?
I'm thinking he's hoping that's
He
gonna
wants
happen.
the ball to
and
come
you know,
to him.
Vince and I, we both have had bad ankles. I've twisted my ankle several times, and you know, after that first couple of days, if you deliberately trying to get back in action and play the following Sunday, you're going to test that ankle. You're going to run on a little bit, and when you do that, it seems to make the inflammation leave the area. I don't know why. It happened to me several times. The inflammation leaves the area, and all of a sudden, you know, when the game time rolls around, you're functional. And I think that's what happened with Freddie because he showed no signs, even when he was running the bases, jogging the bases after the home runs, that his ankle was an issue.
It just reminded me of Patrick Mahomes, though, Jackie, and during the Super Bowl. I mean, he gets hurt and he just bounces back. He'll play hurt. He plays through any kind of circumstance and always makes the best of
Now, you were a
situations.
quarterback, Vince. It's like this
Yeah.
is what I love about professional sports, especially football, baseball. It's a team effort, but it's momentum and it's thought process, and it's, as you mentioned, Jackie, it's rising above it. You're a quarterback.
Yes.
Jackie said you got clocked there in Boston. How do you come back from something like that to play? We want to know as fans.
Well, you have to always bounce back, Michael. I mean, it's like doesn't matter what you're up against, what the circumstances are. You have to overcome those instinctively and preparationally. You have to be ready for those things, and so it's a more of a mindset. But you always have confidence, and like Jackie mentioned, we were a very close-knit team. So we played for each other, not only for ourselves, but we played more for each
As
other.
did the Dodgers.
As did the
did the
Dodgers,
Dodgers.
and you can see that, and you can see that in any team sport. The teams that play so well together are the teams that are always at the
and
top
they'll
of their
tell
game.
you, the teams that play well together, they will make a point to
They
inform
overcome.
everyone that we are a close, a close-knit group.
And they
the
believe,
Dodgers
they have
say,
a belief.
Pass the baton. It's like, I'm going to get on base, I'm going to
Yeah.
do my part, and give it to the next guy.
And that's what I liked about the Dodgers, with Dave Roberts this year. More so in this game that I think catapulted them to be world champions. Because in Game 5, he walks up to his picture.
Yep.
And then he asks him, he says, can you get Giancarlo Stanton out? How are you feeling? He didn't go by analytics. He asked him point blank, I
Absolutely.
can get him out. I can get him out. And it's almost a gut reaction. And so I'm going to live with that. And I'm going to go with that, and I think that's what
When
decided
have you
the game.
seen that in baseball in the last 5 years? A manager goes out, he takes the guy out. This
Yeah,
is the
that's
first
right.
time I've seen, in this
That's
case,
right.
Dave
Conversation.
Roberts to have a conversation, say, can you get him? And he says yes, and thank goodness he got him.
And
It
he
was
went back.
Giancarlo Stanton. Come on,
Yeah.
right?
I know, and one of their top hitters.
Did they do that when you guys played football? They asked you, Vince, can you go out there after getting a concussion or something?
Well, we didn't have too many relievers in those days because you had to play through it all. But if you were having a bad day, you just have to suck it up and just get ready to go back out there and just improve. But Walker Buehler was beautiful in that game. And,
He brought it
coming
up
in
to a high level.
But why? I always question the fact that why would he pull his starter out when his starter is playing at the top of their game, maybe only allowing one hit after 5 innings? I let him go all the way to the end.
That pitch count, all that stuff. I'm old school. I like what happened in that Game 5. We'll talk a little bit more about it. We're going to take a quick break. The show is On Point Live. I'm Michael Horn, Vince Ferragamo, Jackie Slater. Podcast, we have that for you too. We'll tell you about it, so stay with us. More straight ahead. Welcome back here on Point Live. Michael Horn, Vince Ferragamo, Jackie Slater, nationwide, coast to coast on CRN Talk. Hearing it on radio stations all over the country. This show, you guys been doing this show for how many years now?
Geez, I don't know. A couple of years, right?
3 years.
3 years.
Basically a podcast. We've turned it into a radio show and a podcast, and so we're glad to have you all on a board here on our season opener this year. The season's flying along. Before we leave baseball, though, Vince, you wanted to talk a little bit about managers' thought process. What do you got?
Well, yeah, because when you looked at the Dodgers and the Yankees playing in the World Series, I mean, this was just a classic matchup because I just kept remembering as a kid growing up all those great teams we used to watch, you know, with the managers like Billy Martin, you know, the great players, the great teams that they had. And then you looked at, Joe Torre, and then watching their outcome of these guys, what they were able to do, and the influence they had on their teams. Is like Jackie and I have talked about, you know, one of the main things of all team sports is coaching. You got to have the great coaching.
Definitely.
And then Tony La Russa, all the years that he did with the Cardinals, you know, so I mean, I've just been amazed.
That great
and
hair.
then, well, forget about it. I forgot Tommy Lasorda, my good friend.
These are all
I mean,
Italians.
these
Yeah,
guys,
they all
you know,
Italian.
What's going on, Jackie?
Well,
You think that's
I'm
coincidental?
They're all
sorry,
He brings that
fellas.
up.
all Italians. Jackie and I kind of like Dusty Baker. Can we-
What's wrong with Dusty?
That's pretty good.
That's right. He's a good manager too.
Yes, he
now,
is.
boy, I'm
Yes, he
telling you.
is.
Jackie, I don't know if you noticed, but the Italian managers all have that hair that kind of goes straight back a little bit.
Just like
your
Vince's?
management.
Just like Vince's?
It's like my dad's.
Like
It's my
Vince on it.
dad's.
That's
Yeah.
it. No, I'm telling you, let me ask you, Jackie, the mental practice of the game, the Yankees in that Game 5 looked like they had it, and then the thought process goes in like momentum's changing. You know, they now have won 2 games. They're going to go back to L.A. If they win a third, we're in deep trouble. So good teams capitalize. I'm sure when you guys played football, the same thing on mistakes, and there was a terrible 5th inning there, and the Dodgers capitalized.
I mean, you think about Judge, the error that he had. I mean, the guy had one error.
The
last
whole
year.
season?
The whole season last year, and then he gets that one, and you know, and then it looks like everybody is demoral. It looks like everybody
It
was.
was routine catch, Jackie.
It was a
he
routine
just took his
catch,
eye off the ball.
but it just looked like it just took the wind out of the sails when I looked at it. It was just one of those things.
and then Anthony Volpe at shortstop.
At shortstop, he throws the ball on the ground, and then it on cover first base.
Garrett
They
Cole, the pitcher, he forgets to cover
They
first
let
base.
Mookie Betts beat out that run. Well, he didn't beat out anything. Nobody covered the base.
But Jackie, Jody.
That's your
my
wife, by
That's
the
my
way.
wife. Sorry,
That's
Jack.
Jody, honorable mention.
Hey, maybe she must be talking about us right now, Jack.
maybe.
But anyway,
She wants to know about all those ladies and their names.
well, we didn't even get into that.
Okay,
We had
never
the
mind. Go ahead.
Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift. Okay, hold on.
Okay,
We'll talk about them
okay,
a little later.
But Jackie, though, you know, it was about fundamentals. They did fundamentally unsound practices.
Yeah.
And, you know,
In
even
3 different instances.
Jackie, the Super Bowl, our preparation for Super Bowl, all I'm thinking is, let me just work on my fundamentals.
Right.
The snap,
Absolutely.
the gunshot, you know, my throwing, my reactions, you know, what my instincts are.
Yeah.
Just basic fundamentals. And with that can happen, but for it all to happen in the same time in the
Yeah.
same inning, I mean, you can't give them
At your
more
home
outs. I mean,
stadium.
the Dodgers had too many
That
outs.
many outs.
crowd was silent. But
Oh,
the
my
fans are forgiving in New York. I understand they've invited
Well.
Aaron Judge to Times Square for New Year's Eve. He's going to drop the ball.
That's right.
Ta-da!
They say he's going to drop the ball.
He gonna drop the ball. Oh
All
my
right,
goodness.
NFL
To
talk.
use that.
Let's get into a little NFL talk.
Okay.
Okay, let's look at the NFC, the West here. These guys are all like even Steven here on the. What's going on? Nobody's pulling away. Why?
It's hard to say. You know, early on, I have strong opinions and strong feelings about the performance of football teams in the National Football League early in the season.
Why?
Primarily because if you look at it, the guys that are making all the money, the big money guys that you protect during the preseason, those guys don't play in the preseason. They don't play in the preseason, and therefore they're not ready to compete at the top level when you open up the regular season, which is why, in my opinion, I've told Vince this on more than one occasion, we're seeing so many injuries. Many of these injuries are season-ending injuries, like ACLs and knees being blown. These injuries are occurring because these players have been pussyfooted around with all preseason long. They haven't gotten used to the rigors of the sport, and they're expected to go into regular season games and compete at a high level against some of the best athletes in the world. And consequently, what we end up seeing is all of these injuries occurring, and that's a major
But
problem.
the players wanted that. They wanted less
Well,
preseason games, so there's no preseason now. Your preseason are the first few games.
I personally blame the union. They have
Really?
collectively bargained the toughness out of the National Football League's game. Our game is not as tough as it was because people are being pussyfooted around with in the early, because the salary cap. The salary cap says if you're making $30 million a year to play this particular position because you're that good that they're paying you that money, and then you get hurt, they can't replace you because of the salary cap with another $30 million a year guy. They got to go get some guy off the street that's making $300,000, and he's not going to be the competitor that the $30 million a year guy is. So they consequently look at that and they say, I'm going to hedge my bets and I'm going to protect my big-time stars, the ones that I'm paying that I think are special. But what that does is it leaves them vulnerable, in my opinion. When I think about it, if I had been put in that position in any particular year that I played, or the 20 years that I played, where I was not expected to play in the preseason, I would not have had any success early on in the season.
Jackie, next time, if you got an opinion, express it a little more
it's,
strongly.
it's a problem for me when I see that.
I'm the same way. What do you
Let
think?
me add one more thing to that thought, because I think that's led to a lot of the injuries that we see today. But the other thing that's leading to a lot of injuries is that we don't play on natural grass anymore. We play on artificial turf. And that is a different surface.
It is.
When you run in and you have collision sports.
There's no doubt about it.
And the movement that we make in football is not conducive to locking down your joint and I got to move that direction or that direction. Something's going to give. And so I think that has a lot to do with what we see.
That term, wait a minute, that term locking down your joint, is that you're talking about your feet?
Yes,
Gotcha.
for sure.
You know,
Okay, sorry about because there's a lot of joints in the body.
Before we move on,
Yes.
Before we move on from that subject that Vince just brought up about the artificial
Yeah.
turf, there's been a lot of conversation with the union and the league about replacing these surfaces
nothing happens.
and putting grass down for them to
Right.
play on. Now, this is what I know for a fact. I don't have to ask anybody this. I was said to be a more explosive player when I played on artificial surface.
You were talking about that.
Yes.
Artificial turf was better for you?
I was more explosive. My footwork,
Not better,
my
but just more
footwork, my
explosive.
footwork was sure. I mean, the tension, the grab, the bite
Yeah.
in the cleats. I was where I needed to be, but so was my opponent.
But you could hear the reverberation of that contact sometimes from where I was in the backfield.
Yeah, you could hear
So
it.
I mean, with on this artificial turf. So I mean, it wasn't just like a normal thing.
And I was also had a lot more pain and discomfort the days after the artificial turf games than I did after the grass game. I was beat up more because my opponent was having the same kind of traction.
Wasn't it cement and then like a carpet cover underneath
Yes.
and then
That's
the
it.
carpet?
Yes.
That's it?
Yes.
You're falling on cement
You're falling
with
on
like
cement,
that
pretty
much,
You're falling on cement.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
How about for a quarterback?
For the quarterback, I mean, it's more artificial. I think the whole surface is. I mean, you're not playing on natural grass or natural turf. So, but I just think the speed of the game, the collision nature of the game, it just is. It attracts more impact when you actually go into a collision, and this is a collision sport.
And it seems to me that, and what Vince just said, I can understand why he would verbalize it that way. Because if I miss a block at the line of scrimmage and my guy is closing on him and he doesn't see him,
Watch out, block.
he's got better traction as he gets.
And that's what you were hearing, Vince. You were hearing
Hey,
that.
Unfortunately, I saw Vince take a lot of shots, and I'm glad he's still
Well,
my
the
friend
game's different
because
today.
I was the one getting it.
I'm glad he's
There's
still
more
coherent.
safety. There's more safety for the quarterbacks today, though. But we
Oh
talk
yeah,
about the game today, though.
They protect him.
But
a lot.
what else bothers you when you watch a game today?
You guys, I want to ask you. You guys are former players.
Okay.
What the heck bothers you when you watch the
Well,
game?
It's obviously part of that.
I got one big problem.
What?
First of all, I don't believe that a coach should be as protective of these players. I think that the more highly skilled you have to be to do your job in the NFL, the more you need to practice those skills at a game time tempo to use those skills when it matters. And I don't think the coaches give these guys enough
So,
opportunity.
and it's regular training days before the game. They don't go in there.
To me, it's
nothing.
practice. You can practice.
It's a
hard.
walkthrough, Jackie. It's a
You can
walkthrough.
practice hard. but you're never going to practice the way you play in a game.
No.
Let me ask you guys this. I went to training camp. I think, Vince, you were there. Jackie, Fred Dreyer, and I went down there. And I'm expecting to see guys, trying to tackle or push tires on a rack or something around. These guys had those little tiny ropes. We talked about this before. And they're going
Stretching.
like this, and they're stretching like that. I thought, maybe I'm an NFL player and don't know it. I mean, is that what you're talking about? Nobody does it up to the degree you need for the game.
Yeah, and I think, you can get away with that perhaps at certain positions. But I think any position that you play in a contact sport like football, any position that you play, if you are putting that guy in a position where he is not having to execute the skills of dealing with big physical people, then you're cutting his throat. You're not giving him an opportunity to be as successful as he could be.
Well, what really bugs me when I watch games today is the referee calls. There are so many non-calls and calls that are inaccurate. It irks me because it's a delay of the game. It's taking away part of the game the way in its natural form and playing freely. And these missed calls are ruining a lot of games.
But Vince, what about they call New York? They call the league office on many of these calls. They got backup.
They do. They have the challenges, and they always go to a timeout, and they have the review on looking at it. And sometimes it's overruled, and as it clearly states. But
what about the face mask? What about the face mask?
The missed face mask. I mean, the referee's only job is to protect the quarterback, and he's looking away from the quarterback, and I can't see why the call is not made when it shows. So I mean, that's one. And then play calling too.
Hang on here. We got to take a quick little break here. We
can get going on that, huh, Vince?
You know what bothers me when I'm watching football? When the 3-layer dip is gone and Mike Gary ate the last chip. That really excites me, I'm telling you. All right, we'll take a break. Come back. It's On Point Live. Vince Ferragamo, Jackie Slater. I'm Michael Horn. We'll be back. Thanks for joining us. We're back. On Point Live, CRN Digital Talk Radio. I'm Michael Horn. The great Vince Ferragamo, LA Rams quarterback, great career. Jackie Slater, one of the 20 years in the, and your son also on New England. This is an all-star without me here. But just before the break, Vince, you were starting to go into play calling, and you're talking about ref calling. What do you got there?
Well, that's what bothers me, I think, when I watch the games today. And I look, the great Bear Bryant used to say, the will to win, everybody has that, but it's the will to prepare to win is what's the most important thing.
What do you mean?
And so what I mean by that is I look at the game today on but as a schematic design by coaching staffs, what they put in from week to week. And you see the best teams have the best play calling. But what irks me the most is when there's a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, they run a shotgun formation. Now, instead of 1 yard, now they're 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage when the ball is accepted. And now you've got to run 5 yards before you gain 1 yard. That really kills me. You have the tush push that Philadelphia made famous. They make a first down every time they run the ball. And to me,
with the
that's a lack of
on
preparation.
The center.
And Jackie, as you know, and you might want to elaborate on this, is that on Fridays we'd always take a full day at short yardage and goal line offense. And we would get out there and actually
all day long.
Hard. Yes, most of the day, a great section of the practice was devoted to the short yardage formations and getting that 1 yard.
That's right.
But what was required is to run the football at them.
But that was missing from the game for a long time. Running was not there. Now it seems to be back. And these short plays, the 1 yard ones, kill me too. It's like I see the tush push happen here last week with Philly, and it's like that seems to work. But there must be other ways to do it as well, right?
You can do it by design, sure.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think we're going to start seeing over the next few years, and I think this year is very key because we're seeing it more so this year than perhaps we did last year. And that is the fact that people are starting to run the football more. They're starting to run the football more.
This year,
You know, when you think about it, some of the highest paid people on your football team are the 5 offensive linemen up front. Those guys are big, burly guys. You expect them to do a physical job. But if you ask them to pass block all the time, they are playing into the hands of these undersized pass rushers with all this quickness and change of direction and ability to get the hands up and affect the quarterback. They want to be pass rushers. These guys are paid more money to rush the passer than they are to play the run. And so one of the things that I would like to see, and I'm starting to see a little bit more of it, is teams attacking those undersized pass rushers. Look at Michael Parsons over the Dallas Cowboys. They line him up on 3rd and long, 2nd and long in front of a 320-pound guard who's not quick enough to pass block him. But if they line him up in there and they run the football at him, he's going to get his rear end smashed. So one of the things I think coaches are starting to realize and say to themselves is, hey, they're going to load us up with thinking that we're going to play modern day football and just toss the ball all around all the time. No, that's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to make those little guys play run defense. You put Rob Havenstein at 6'8", 338 pounds on a 250-pound pass rusher. You're going to win that competition.
Yeah, use the size and strength to make them.
But let me
put this in perspective. What's going on today? Okay, the Baltimore Ravens are the number 1 leading rushing team in the NFL. They're the number 1 team overall in offense, and they are one of the top teams in the league. Yeah, they're number 1. Number 2 is the Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles. They have Saquon Barkley's running crazy. Then you have
they also have Lane Johnson, the biggest left tackle.
That's right.
Tackle
they got offensive line. So their investment is in the front line. Their investment is in the trenches, in the foundation. If you're going to build a building, you want to have a strong foundation, and you build from that. So that's what's done offensively and defensively now, and that's what makes the difference. The Commanders, they're in 3rd. They're 3rd rushing.
And they're having a great year.
They're the leading in the NFC North.
Yeah.
You got the San Francisco 49ers have always been a believer in the running game. The Packers, again, and you have the Detroit Lions. Look at how strong they're going to run. They're changing the line of scrimmage, Jackie, I think, up front.
And you know, the other thing, Vince, you just said, and we have to look at this. Nobody ever want to quantify the value of an offensive line beyond his salary and whatnot as an individual. But when you look at the teams that you just mentioned, they all feature great offensive lines. The Detroit Lions, we're watching Jared Goff and his resurgence as a quarterback. And I'm disappointed because I wanted him to be a Ram and to see a Ram first overall pick.
Talking about that.
See a Ram first overall pick having the success that Jared Goff is having in Detroit right now bothers me because I'd rather see him doing that here in
He's
L.A.
the front runner, by the way, in the MVP vote for this year, I think, Jackie.
Absolutely. He had a perfect. He's
over 74%.
He's got the highest QBR in the league, I think.
Yeah.
But
all right, you like Jared Goff.
Okay, keep going.
But I like the fact that Jared Goff has an offensive line in front of him that features the highest paid right tackle in the game, and you watch him play and you know why he's paid like that.
What about that coach over there? He kind of goes wild every once in a while.
Campbell, and I have to say something about him.
I've seen him smiling. You're smiling.
And his reflection and his influence on Jared Goff has made a big difference in the way he plays.
That's what Vince was saying.
And I think his toughness in the pocket, and that's the way Campbell is built. He's built from toughness, being a tight end.
Absolutely.
And he understands that if you want to make plays in the NFL, you got to stand in the pocket. Not all the time, but there's times when you have to take the hit and deliver the ball, and it has to be an accurate throw. And you see that now. You even see that with the rookie quarterback with the Washington Commanders, and Jaden Daniels. Yeah. He has thrown some great, fantastic passes while he's gotten hit, and he has a slight frame. He doesn't have a huge frame. So he's taking hits. That tells you.
So you got a big game coming up this week. What, Washington and
I love that matchup.
And they're playing
Detroit.
Yeah. So what do you think there? You just talked about both teams here. I mean, is the young guy going to do well against Goff? What's happening?
Well, both those teams. You know, we can talk about the quarterbacks all we want, and I know Vince loves doing that.
No. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Senators. I'm sorry. I mean, and the Senators and the Washington Commanders.
Both those teams too.
They were the Senators one time.
Both those teams too. But if you look at both those teams, they've invested heavily in their offensive lines. They don't have a bunch of Joe Blows up there. They got names.
Back
and
to
those
your
guys,
point.
yeah,
Oh,
those,
Dan
and
Quinn, Dan Quinn understands.
They got
that too.
names.
He's
They
a
got
coach.
names, and they got technique.
And
Okay,
Cliff Kingsbury has done a great job with Jaden Daniels. As
Let
we
me
talk
let
about
me throw a
quarterbacks.
monkey wrench in there
Yes.
and get your opinions. When do you know to make a change? If you've got a team, you're the coach, management team, whatever your thought process is, some new guy is not making it. When do you say, let's make a change and switch?
At
Well,
what position? That
Let
depends
me
on
talk about the
position.
quarterback
Quarterback.
position.
Oh, at the
first.
quarterback. Okay.
So yeah, because alignment is a little different to see
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Jackie's perspective would be
We'll
most
get to
accurate.
linemen next. Go ahead.
But for a quarterback, when you have a rookie quarterback, that's not the time to be playing in the NFL. You need experience. You need to gather information. It's a learning process.
So
More
you sit on the bench and watch.
So the only two quarterbacks that I've seen in the last 5 years, J.C. Stroud, and then you also have who was our number one pick last year, as we talked about, and then this year you see Jaden Daniels, and I like Bo Nix. Bo Nix is with Sean. With Denver, and he's playing really well. But I think Jaden Daniels, those two are exception to the rule because it takes time to develop a quarterback. So to pull a quarterback like Bryant Young from Carolina, he shouldn't have been playing at the beginning anyway.
Well,
He
go
needs
back
to
you.
watch it.
When you were playing, there was quarterback controversy
all the time.
Ferragamo
But I
should
waited
get in
3
there.
years. It waited
You
3
waited
years.
3 years,
But,
right?
but I was performing in the preseason. That's where I was learning. But I was learning all the time
When
by
they finally
watching and
played you,
learning.
you went to the
inside.
Super Bowl, for
Well,
God's sakes.
I mean, some teams get lucky. This guy got
You know,
lucky.
I don't know if it's because of the size of the rosters now, Vince, or what, but, you know, the expectations are that guys have to play a lot sooner because of their draft status. And I disagree with that because over the years that I played, it didn't matter if you were the most amount of skill that you needed to get your job done effectively in the NFL, regardless of what position that was, that position required a longer time to develop and to be competent enough to go against the great and even the average professional players. So I think that you got to look at that, and it manifests itself with the offensive line just in the secondary quicker than any two positions. You have to put those guys in position to play hard-nosed football, practice hard-nosed football for them to develop faster, because otherwise they're going to be behind the eight ball when it comes to dealing with some of these highly skilled wide receivers if you're a defensive back, or defensive lineman if you're an offensive lineman. It's just simple as that.
Let's take another example. Let's say you're coaching, let's
Seattle?
take the Carolina Panthers, then we'll get to
Okay.
Seattle.
Okay.
What do you do there with Bryce Young?
Well, Bryce Young started off. He was the number one pick
Yeah.
coming out of college,
Yep.
out of Alabama. Had a great understudy with Nick Saban. And you know what I see? I saw a lot of talent. I mean, ever since he was a high school player. But still, again, is a rookie quarterback in the NFL. If he had someone to look up to, at least for his first or second year, and then break him in. But as Jackie mentioned, the money that's been spent on some of these young players coming out, there's an urgency to play these guys right away to take advantage of what they're paying these guys. But I'm just telling you, from a mental aspect, to learn the game, there's a lot of different circumstances that you have to learn as a quarterback to be effective.
You ought to know.
I
Vince
mean,
Ferragamo.
You know,
it's a myriad of things.
Just to echo what Vince just said.
Yeah.
I mean, Baker Mayfield was a throwaway quarterback.
There you
a
go.
couple of
Let's
years
talk
ago.
about Baker.
He was a throwaway quarterback. He comes to the Rams and he's with them 1 week in this
Less
system.
than.
And the coach likes him.
And the coach likes him, and he wins the
the
ball
game.
game. Wins the game. Now, what he's doing right now, the guy who's calling the plays for him right now was on the Rams coaching staff years ago. So he's familiar with the system,
Cohen.
and the guy's got royal confidence. This guy
he
was.
does. I
he
saw,
was-
even though they had lost the game, but they almost won against
Almost won the
Kansas
game.
City there, Jackie.
Right, and then the same thing about the quarterback here in
Sam Darnold.
About Sam Darnold in
Yeah,
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Right.
I'm not going to count him out. He's having a good year.
He's having
Absolutely.
a great year,
but,
I
but,
think.
But they're no longer with their original teams.
Right.
Because the expectations were too high. And like Vince said, they didn't have a guy that they could learn from, and they didn't grow those guys right.
So learn from is the key. What the quarterback's most influential person is his offensive coordinator, the guy that's the quarterback coach working with him day to day.
Did that happen to you? You went to Canada, yeah, but you were on Green Bay, Buffalo, weren't you?
Yes,
there?
yeah.
So what did you learn when you were there? Those stops, and then you came back to the
I
Rams
learned
because Jackie
it wasn't
Slater
the
called
same
you back.
offensive line in either case.
Where's
for
Jackie
being
when you
the
went out?
Rams?
Where's Jackie?
There is a luxury to be
All right,
involved.
what about Anthony Richardson with the Colts? What do we do with him?
Well, here's another example. I think Jackie, a great athlete, great talent coming out of college, but again, he's only throwing 44% of his completions. So it's a difficult transition from the passing game. Running, he's fine. We're running the football, but as a quarterback, as you see in Lamar Jackson, and you see what Monken's done for him, he's made amends. He's made great strides as a quarterback, probably one of the best quarterbacks from the pocket, understanding the passing game and the advantages of being a passer as well as a runner. Because believe me, there's a lot of opportunities. Even though I wasn't fast, I couldn't get through but there was a lot of opportunities to run the football. But you can't take them all. You have to distribute the ball to the rest of your teammates so everybody's involved.
And I don't want to come down on Richardson because he's still a young guy. He's still growing. He's still learning. And there's a lot of pressure on him. There's no doubt about it. But I watched the game that he tapped out on. We're getting towards that. I watched what happened. And the play or two before he tapped out, if you didn't know any better, you would have thought he was Eric Dickerson or some other running back. I mean, he was running with the football and trying to dodge people and everything else, running like a running back. And so what he did when he got up off the ground, he did what a lot of good running backs would do. He tapped himself out of the game because he was out of breath. Now, do you want a quarterback running like that? No, because the linebacker
got to be in there. You got to lead the
team.
team.
Get busted up real fast.
However, I got to tap myself out because we got a break.
All right.
I actually am running out of breath here on the show, so we'll take a break. It's On Point Live, Vince Ferragamo, Jackie Slater. Thank you so much for joining us. Final segment coming up. Don't go away. We are back. Final segment. This show just went right by. Don't forget our podcast. Your guys' website for On Point Live is
OnPointLive.com. Or
Yeah,
.net. I'm sorry, onpointlive.net.
I thought it was a net. OnPointLive.net. Right, Jackie? Am I correct on that?
That's right.
Yeah.
We want to thank our sponsor, Harmony Cheese. Now, Vince, you apparently have gotten lots of Harmony Cheese. I got it, but my daughter ate it.
My refrigerator is stacked with
Jackie,
Harmony
you've
cheese,
got
and
the
it is
Harmony
so
cheese.
good.
We
I
got-
can't
We got a
believe-
major problem. We got to address this major problem. Why is it that you have cheese, you get cheese,
They've got a
and
Merlot
I don't
cheese.
get any cheese?
They got a Merlot cheese that's just absolutely deliciously
Tell me
warm.
about it. Tell me
Well, I'm
about
going
it.
to tell you to go to harmonycheese.com is the website.
I'm gonna have to get on the phone with those
harmonycheese.com.
guys back there.
Yeah,
They're
talk
sending
to-
all you guys.
What's their phone number?
Sending you prima donnas,
Wait,
you
he's got the
quarterbacks.
phone number. You need to give him a call.
715-443-5543, 715-443-5543. And the lovely Bree is there. That is her name, Bree,
Bree
at
Cheese.
Harmony
Yes,
Cheese.
I
They
know,
have
it's
Bree as well,
perfect.
too. So that is good stuff.
Hey,
All right.
that's in Green Bay. You know, that's in De Pere, Wisconsin.
You
And,
played on
I
Green
played
Bay.
there 1 year. They have a bye this week, by the way, Jack, and they are second
So did
place,
Scott
right
Hunter.
behind Detroit.
So did Scott Hunter and Jim Delgazo when they were clocked by Fred Dreyer. 2 safeties in one game.
In
But
one
they
game.
made
In the
coverage.
same
I was
quarter.
sitting on the bench.
Wasn't in the same
I was
quarter?
sitting on the bench
And
watching that.
what'd you say?
I just
Where's my
thought-
cheese, right?
No, I just thought about Fred beating me up in practice every day. Now he's beating up somebody else.
All right, game of the week. Last final thoughts. You guys each pick a game. What do you like?
Okay, let me go with. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh Steelers and the Washington Commanders because
I go
this
Commanders.
is a matchup of 2 of the top teams in their divisions.
I go on command with the
You-
Commanders.
I like J.C. Watt.
All right. What do you think, Jackie?
I like
Yours?
Watt
That's an
and the
intriguing.
Steelers.
That's an
Russell
intriguing
Wilson.
game. That's an intriguing game for me as well. I'm going to be watching the Rams, and like I always do.
Playing Miami.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching them
Monday
like I
Night
always
Football,
do.
Jackie.
And it's going to be interesting to see that young defensive front, Fisk, Jarrett,
Verse.
on the other side, getting after Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback who's had the concussion
Yeah,
issues
gotta
and
be
everything. And this is an incentive to me to bring out the Aaron Donald that's in these young guys.
All right, we're going to see.
Get
That'll
after
be,
the
and we'll
quarterback.
talk about it next week on the show. Jackie Slater, Vince Ferragamo, the website for the podcast,
OnPointLive.net.
onpointlive.net. We'll see you next week. Thanks to Mike Gary for doing a fabulous
He
job.
did a
Mike,
great
thank you.
job. He
Corey
did a great
Marino,
job,
our
Mike.
producer, Corey Marino, putting it together. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.